Hello, and welcome to the second episode of Women in Trades, the 4%. I am super excited. I have Jazzy Peterson here with me today, and she is a crane operator, and she is going to start us off by telling us a little bit about her job and how she got started in her trade.
Hi, I'm super excited to be here. So, I don't really have a cool story on how I got started off. I really wanted to get into heavy equipment at first, which wasn't really for me. And so I went to a heavy equipment school and there was a crane school alongside with it. And I was like, I might as well try it out. And I looked up to Lila Russell a lot. She is a tower crane operator and I was like, I feel like I could do it. And so I just paid 20 grand to go to crane school and got into it. And obviously, as soon as I got out of crane school, I joined the union, which I personally am very hardcore, rep the union. And so that's how I got into it.
That is awesome. I did not know that you had to pay to go to crane operator school. So, are you able to take out loans to do that like you would in a normal college program?
Yeah, so I took out a loan for it because obviously, I didn't have 20 grand to my name at the age of 18. But
Right.
the union still has the apprenticeship. I just didn't know about it. I didn't know anything about blue collar, the trades, nothing. So I was like, oh, I'll just take out this loan, go to crane school, and join the union. And then once I finally joined, and I'm already a journeyman, I was like, damn, I could have just joined the apprenticeship and been paid this whole time.
Because a lot of people don't know that you can go through a union or even a non-union apprenticeship and you do not have to pay a dime. As a matter of fact, most of the time they will pay you.
Yep, exactly. Which I wish I would have known that when I was 18 years old.
Yeah, so I think that's definitely why it's important, and it's great that we do what we do on social media to get the word out there. So you said you looked up to a tower crane operator, and that's what got you kind of interested in wanting to do it.
Yeah, so I followed these two girls on Instagram, Bailey Barnes and Lila Russell. So Bailey Barnes, she's super big in the trades and everything. So I was like, damn, a girl in the trades, that's really cool. And then I saw that Lila Russell was a tower crane operator, and I was like, I feel like it'd be nice to sit in a cab all day and not have to deal with people. So once I started going to school for it, I ended up having a female instructor, and she was amazing. She taught me the ropes of everything. And I was I fell in love with it the first day I started school.
That's really awesome that you were able to have a female instructor to kind of get you started into getting into the field and everything, because I know that can be a little bit intimidating. What kind of job sites do you normally work on?
So I've worked on chip plants, battery plants, refineries, and a mine. That's about as far as I've gotten in just 2 years now, which is pretty good, but that's about it.
And so are you like currently operating on site right now, or when you are working at least?
Yeah, no, I am. I
That's
just
cool.
left a battery plant in Arizona, just moved back to Florida, and we were doing a tower crane job building a parking garage, but my tower crane ended up falling down because of the hurricane, so that was
Oh my
unfortunate.
gosh. That is terrifying. Has your area been impacted by the hurricane pretty bad, or?
It's really bad. It was our second hurricane, I think, in 2 weeks, and I'm
Yeah,
expecting a third one. And vehicles are destroyed. There's boats in the middle of the road. I'm like, oh my gosh.
that is so scary. Like, I cannot even imagine. We get tornadoes in Michigan, but like, luckily, we've never been affected by a hurricane. But yeah. So, other than your female instructor, do you ever get, I know you're like in a crane most of the time, so you probably don't ever really work alongside other women. Do you ever see women on job sites in your area?
I see Firewatch. Obviously, when I'm picking up a piece and they're welding it in, there's a lot of female Firewatch, which I think is cool. I've seen some female ironworkers, but I've never personally spoke to them. And I've seen some female truck drivers, but I've obviously since I'm isolated in my own little box, I don't
Right,
really talk to many people.
exactly.
Yeah.
And then we were kind of talking about it a little bit before, but like with social media, I seen that I also have had like viral videos, and just like you said, like the hate comments are unreal. But have you ever actually experienced it in person on a job site?
No, I've
Me
never had anyone
neither.
say it to my face. It's only like the keyboard guys, the keyboard warriors.
Literally, and that's exactly, I think that some women are like afraid to get into the trades because they think like men are going to be mean or this and that, but like unless you get in with them with like the normal kind of banter, none of them, like the hate comments or anything, I have never really experienced them on site either.
Yeah, I feel like it's very rare for someone to just come up to your face and be like your daddy probably got you into this.
No,
You
because they have no balls.
no, they don't. And that's why I at first, like when I first got into the trade, it affected me so bad. I'm like reading these comments and I'm like seriously, like am I that bad? Like what's wrong with me? And then 2 years in, I like realized that these are people sitting at home on their butt with nothing better to do.
Yeah, as a content creator, it's like shocking at first, definitely, because I had like two TikToks before the one that I have now. And anytime I would have a video like blow up, I would delete my whole TikTok and be like, I can't deal with it. But then after a certain point, it was also like probably 3 years in the trade for me once I was like confident and I knew that I knew what I was doing and that those people like weren't shit, basically, literally. I was like, okay, like I can handle this. And it's been worth it. Like I've got to meet a lot of cool people. Like I get to do stuff like this. So,
Like I've never had anyone hate on me on a job site, and honestly, the men that I've met in my field are super nice, and the crews I've worked, I've never had a problem with them. But there's always those like nasty guys that you just like you don't even acknowledge them.
yeah, exactly. There will always be that too, probably, unfortunately. That's why we need to get more women so we can outnumber them one day.
Oh, 100%.
So, what has been your biggest challenge that you would say as far as like getting into the trade or maybe even getting your foot in the door, or even when you were going through school?
My biggest challenge, I would say, over just the past 2 years of being in this trade, is as crappy as it sounds, is being a woman. Because when I call up companies and I like tell them what I've ran, I tell them what I know, and obviously I'm super educated, or I try to educate myself as much as I can, they're like, yeah, well, like, we don't have a lot of females out here. And it's like, what does my gender have to do with anything? I want to work. I want to be here every day and do my job. Like that's the biggest struggle I've had is being a woman and also starting off so young as a journeyman because I bought my book.
Because how old are you currently?
I'm only 20.
Yeah, so I bet even like trying to get people to take you seriously is hard because I started when I was 21. And I don't know about you, but like I had zero like knowledge or
Oh,
experience. Like I didn't know any of the tools. Like I had to learn them all. Like
yeah.
so it was definitely hard at first to like be taken seriously. I agree with that, like 100%. So if you could give one piece of advice to a woman who is just starting out in the trades or who wants to go to school, what would you say to her?
I feel like this may be like controversial, but it's also just what I have learned from other female in the trades is one, like don't be afraid to do it, but also like as much as it sucks, don't like show up to work like trying to impress people. And I know that there are the women that will show up with like their hair curled, their makeup done, like skinny jeans and like tight t-shirts, and it's like honestly, I'm not saying like you're asking for it, but I've never showed up to work dolled up and stuff like that because men are gross. Like
Yeah,
these guys are gross. Like
they
they
are
see a
pigs, and
girl on
and
a
you'll
job.
you learn it fast in the
Oh yeah.
trade. Yeah.
Like being fresh into the field and like seeing how these guys act, I realize I'm like, I'm not even gonna brush my hair when I show up to work. Like I don't want anything to do with these guys. And every most girls I've talked to, like they try to stay covered up or like stuff like that. And as much as it sucks, like at this point, it's kind of what needs to happen on at least bigger job sites, like the ones I've been on. But
Mhm.
there are ones like job sites where a woman can feel more comfortable and doesn't have to cover up every day.
And it is I definitely you learn like with time too that it benefits you more to just dress for comfort as well rather than wearing like tight clothes and stuff. That's why I kind of like that I'm a welder cuz like literally 90% of me will be covered up like
Yeah.
even in the middle of summer like I'm wearing FRs like so half the time they don't even know that I'm like really tattooed or anything so I can at least hide that. But I agree with that. Like, it's also trying to like come to work pretty. Like, props to women that can do it. But like, I my makeup would be wrecked by first break. Like,
100%.
literally, I would look like a sweaty pig, like with a
Just dripping.
melted face. Literally, like I couldn't like. But
Uh,
sometimes I'll go to work and have like leftover makeup from the night before, and the guys are always like, "Oh, who are you trying to impress?" I'm like, "Dude, this is like crusty eyeliner from yesterday. This is not that. That is not what's happening right."
oh my gosh. Yeah, I think I normally show up to work with like I don't brush my hair. I'm wearing like a baggy hoodie and like baggy jeans. I'm like, just don't talk to me, please. But I will like bring breakfast for my crew on Fridays and like talk to them. But other than that, I
Yeah.
like being in my little like my own little area.
Yeah, it is nice to be able to like get in with your crew and like be friends with them. And I also used to like make biscuits and gravy and bring it in for my crew when I was like a newer apprentice. But now I'm like, I don't have time for that. I
You're
still
like,
like you guys, but I don't have time for that.
I just grab donuts in the morning and I'm like, here you guys go.
That that's really nice. That's also a good piece of advice for any women wanting to get in the trades. Bring your crew donuts and they will definitely like you more.
All you gotta do is bribe them with food and they'll be happy. Pizza.
Literally. Pizza, anything. It's easy to make them like you.
Yeah.
So, do you have any idea when you will be able to get to go back to work like after all the hurricane and everything?
I go back tomorrow, which is
Oh,
really good.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna be running a crawler in like kind of like the middle of Florida. It's kind of up north from me because I'm in South Florida, so that'll be good. But it just sucks because obviously I'm not 21, so I don't have my CDL. So that's another like struggle I have being in the trades is everybody wants you to have your CDL as a crane operator, but luckily the union has always had my back, finding me work every time.
And is that because like I know that when we have a crane like come onto site, it's like kind of its own rig basically and you drive it down the road?
Yeah, those are like taxi cranes. So what
Gotcha.
I'm going on is crawlers, like the big cranes on the
Okay.
side.
Gotcha. So you said it's a little bit north of you. So do you like travel for work and stay out of town or do you get to go home pretty much every night?
Well, I bought a travel trailer because I was kind of working on the road for the first 2 years of my career. I was mostly in like Arizona area. And so in Florida, most of the work is not by my house whatsoever. So it's like 3 to 5 hours is about what I'd be driving. So, I mean, that's why I bought a travel trailer because I'm not trying to drive a 6 hour round trip every day.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
But that's really impressive that you were able to buy that for yourself at the age of 20 or before.
Yeah.
That
No,
is
I,
why I encourage women to join the trades.
no, it was a $45,000 trailer. I walked in, I was like, I want that one.
And it's a great investment, especially if you're traveling for work. Because do they pay you per diem and stuff as well if you have to go out of town?
Oh, yeah. I think I've only ever taken one job without pretty.
Nice. Yeah, that's good too.
Yeah.
Like experience like any sexual harassment or anything in the workplace, right?
Yeah. That's why I
You
had to leave.
have.
My first job, it was my boss. We could
That
talk
was
about
before
that.
you joined the union.
No, that was union. That
But
was rough.
Did they at least remove you from the situation?
They just swapped me shifts and they ended up firing him, but then they
That's
laid me
good.
off right after for no reason, and I was like, okay.
So my second job, boss of the general contractor, he would go around the job site and take photos, and I didn't think anything of it. Like, I'm like, okay, it's like progress pictures or like proof to the customer that we're working.
Yeah.
Well, I had become like really good friends with another one of the general contractors that was a boss at that job site. And he was like, you need to stop letting, we'll just call him the boss man, I guess. And he's like, you need to stop letting the boss man take photos of you. And I'm like, well, I'm not like letting him, but like, why? What do you mean? And like apparently he would have all these pictures of me like pulled up on his computer, and then my friend who worked for the like GC company was like, yo, like why do you have all those? And he'd be like, well, zoom in. And like I was literally like 21, 22 years old, and it was like the second job site I'd ever been on. Like my first year, I was a first year apprentice, and like I didn't know what to do, so like I told my foreman, and my foreman was like, you need to stop or like you're gonna get fired. And I was like, if I'm gonna get fired, I don't even want to work here, first of all. Well, luckily, there was another engineer woman on the job site at the time, and it became an ongoing thing, kind of like you said. Like, I ended up getting like sent to another job, and like nothing happened to him. But after a certain point, they wanted to bring me back to that job. And so there were like all these rules. It was like, I'm not gonna work alone, and he's not supposed to even come like in the same building as me. Which, like, we should not have to make those rules because a man is doing inappropriate things at work. Like,
Yeah.
and we as women should not be punished for it either. But long story short, after I had come back, it was during COVID, and he ended up like getting in my face and yelling at me in front of all the contractors without a mask on. And I kept my cool, which is really, really hard for me because I'm like a little bit of a hothead sometimes, which I'm getting it under control now, but especially back then, like I wanted to swing on him,
Yeah.
but I didn't, and I kept my cool, and I got removed from the job site again. And luckily there was an engineer girl there, and we keep in like contact to this day. I've done plumbing jobs for her. Like we used to like hang out and go to like greenhouses together to buy plants and stuff. So we've stayed in touch, but this was like a government job for like a municipal for a city. It was a wastewater plant. And she ended up telling the city like what was going on. And so it was actually the city that ended up like firing him and not his employer, like even though they knew what was going on. Like it was so like crooked. Like
That's actually insane.
yeah, so it's just like kind of crazy what they let men get away with sometimes just because they're bosses, like, or have some sort of power.
Yeah.
But luckily, that was like my only really bad experience that I would say so far.
Yeah, I feel like almost every girl I've ever talked to has had a story, like somewhat of a story. Mine was pretty wild. It definitely like made me hate my job for a little bit, honestly, like
Mm-hmm.
because mine was my boss too. And obviously like I trusted my boss because we got like super close. He always put me in all these different cranes and like he was just super nice to me and I was like, "Oh, like that's great. Like I feel super like safe around him." And then, mind you, I fresh into the trade. This was my first job site I've ever been on. I was 18 years old. My birthday rolls around, and Mr. Bossman drove me out to the parking lot to my car. And he gives me a gift. And I was like, oh, like, thanks. I appreciate it. It was a vibrator. And I was like,
What?
what? And so I literally didn't know what to do. I had it and I just like walked to my car and I called Bailey Barnes because we were on the same job site together. And obviously she's been welding for years now, and I'm just like crying. I'm like, I don't know what to do. I don't know who to talk to. I've never like had this ever happen to me in my entire life, and this is my boss. And she's like, you need to tell someone. I'm like, I don't know who to tell. I work with a bunch of men. So I called my union steward. Luckily she's a female, and I was just like,
Yeah.
hey, like, I'm embarrassed to even talk about this because it's uncomfortable for me, and just like talking about it, it's embarrassing. And like it was handled right then and there. That company, like, they had like a meeting with me over the phone, and I obviously was just so embarrassed. I just didn't want to talk to anybody. I wanted to isolate myself for the rest of my life. But I ended up like leaving that company and everything, and it was just a mess. I never want to go through that again, but having an older woman in the trades to look up to and an older steward that's been crane operating for like 40 years now, that definitely was the only way I got through it. If it was just me, I would probably have never said anything because I was too scared.
I'm really glad that you had a woman in your union who was looking out for you, and that you also had a blue collar friend that you could reach out to, because that is honestly traumatic. Like,
Very.
oh my god, dude, I'd lose my shit, like, literally.
I just didn't know what to do. I was like frozen. I was like,
Why would he even think that's okay? What is wrong with people?
just men being gross. That's why I
Literally.
tell girls to like don't dress up for work because these men are
No,
gross.
it makes it easier, because the thing is, even if you don't dress up, you
That's
can
so
go to work thinking that you look terrible, that you look the worst you've ever looked, and those men are still gonna think you're hot, especially if you're a young woman and they think that they can take advantage of you in any way. Like, they will try. Like, you really have to stand your ground. Like, that's my biggest piece of advice that I normally tell women when they want to get into the trades is, do not be afraid to cuss men out and tell
yeah.
them to fuck off, like, literally, and be ready to, like, and do not be afraid to, because you won't get in trouble for it
Mm.
99% of the time.
No, never. I think I've cussed out a few men, but like now I'm kind of at the point like if a guy says something gross to me, I kind of like look at him and I'm just like walk away. I'm like I don't even want to acknowledge you right now. Like you probably have a wife and a kid at home. Walk away.
Hmm. I usually say really sick and twisted things back that I probably can't say on the podcast, but it usually gets them to never want to speak to me again, because they're like, I don't know if she was serious or not. And I'm like, I probably was.
That's the best part.
Dude, yeah. But yeah, you really do have to stand up for yourself. But in a situation like yours or mine, you definitely do have to get someone involved, which can also be scary, because you don't want to be known as like the woman who like can't deal with things and has to like go to HR. But at a certain point, like, things are not okay, and you do need to get like intervention from higher up. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I mean that's why HR is there. They're there to help you, but
Hmm.
and I want like women to realize like don't feel like an inconvenience for vocalizing your feelings and vocalizing how something made you feel because your feelings matter, and like we've all been through it being in the trades because obviously it's a man dominated field. No, we're all here to work. We're all here to go home and have a paycheck at the end of the day. Like, and I also want to say like not all men are bad. Like
No, they're not.
I have some great guys in my life that I've met through work. It's like the like 2% that are bad.
Yes, it is like very few and far between. Like I said, I've been in 5 years, 5.5 years now, and I only had one bad experience. And I don't want to say that it was my fault, but I didn't know how to handle it. Like, I was so young and naive at the time.
Mhm.
Like, I don't feel like that exactly would happen again. And in the future, like, I would know how to avoid that. But it's definitely something that, even though it doesn't happen all the time, like, we do need to bring awareness to it. But just like you said, most of the guys I work with, like, they would give you the shirt off their back. Like, most of them are like second dads or like creepy uncles to me or something.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I kind of like look at them as like, yeah, like my second dad or like a brother or something, because I feel like the good men in the trade like realize that, like, damn, this girl's here to work. Like, she's here
Yeah.
to learn what we're doing and she's here to work, and they respect you for that. So,
Yes, they absolutely will.
yeah, definitely
That's
like
the other thing, like, if you can just show up on time and actually, like, learn and pay attention, they will respect you. Like, you can gain respect really fast as long as you just do your job. We talked about, the women that you looked up to on social media before you got into the trade. Did you ever have any family or anything that worked as an operator or at blue collar?
So my grandpa and both of my uncles did a lot of like heavy equipment work, and that's why like at the beginning I was like, yeah, like maybe I should go do heavy equipment, and then I realized like this is not for me, because I realized like heavy equipment is you're working in a cabin, you're also doing labor outside, and I was like, I'm good. I don't want to do that. So yeah, I had like those people to look up to in heavy equipment, but cranes, I didn't know anything about cranes. I honestly went into it barely even knowing math. So when I went to school, I was like, geez, I did not realize how much stuff went into this. So yeah, I really only looked up to Lila on Instagram before me and her became really close. And then I looked up to Bailey because obviously she's been in the trades for so long. And I was like, I didn't know women like could be successful in the trades. It's like I've never seen a woman on a job site until I finally got on a job site, you know?
Yeah, two of my main people that I looked up to were Miss Welds and Liv Taylor Dodge. I don't know if you follow either of
I
them.
love her.
Me too. She's awesome. I have, like, when she followed me, I literally almost shit my pants. I was like
Her
fangirling
videos
so
are
hard.
so good.
I also really like Ray Ripple. She makes some beautiful, like, plasma cut art. She's really awesome too. So I think that is gonna be all for today. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. I really got to join you today. I had a lot of fun with you.
Thank you. You guys can follow her on Instagram and TikTok to keep up with her adventures, and we will see you guys on the next episode.